Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. Now I wasn't originally going to stream today. Obviously we done the live game preview to the Lincoln game yesterday. However, Marco Silva has had his pre-game press conference earlier on today, and I thought, you know what, I sat here last week and I've done a little bit of a live reaction to the press conference, a live reaction to some of the topics that Marco Silva discussed, and I thought, you know what, I'll come and do the same today. Obviously it's not straight after the press conference like it was last week. Of course, I mentioned in last week's live stream that it would be a little bit difficult to do that because on most weeks I'm working, and most of the time that Marco Silva's doing his press conferences I'm usually in or around work. However, last week I had the day off because I went to get a tattoo, so that's why I was able to come and sit down and discuss all of the points. But I thought, you know what, I'm not really doing anything after work, I may as well sit down and I may as well discuss some of the quotes that Marco Silva has said ahead of tomorrow night's game. Of course, listen, really big game for Everton tomorrow. Big chance to bounce back after the disappointing defeat against Aston Villa. Some really interesting quotes from the manager himself, as well as the biggest piece of news I think from today coming out of Everton Football Club is that we have had an injury update on midfielder Jean-Philippe Gbamin, and that is that he will be out for at least 8 weeks with an injury to his right thigh, I believe. So that's a minimum of 8 weeks as well. So it's not looking good on that front. Obviously, like I said, we're here to talk about the press conference itself, so we'll go into talking about some quotes in just a moment. Let me just tweet today's team out so everybody knows we are live. Like I said, a little bit of a one-off one because I wasn't going to stream. As far as everybody was aware, the next sort of piece of content or video from myself was going to be the instant match reaction tomorrow night. However, I thought, you know what, I got some positive comments on the live stream last week when we done the press conference reaction. A lot of people saying that it was enjoyable. A lot of people saying that they enjoyed, sitting there and listening to me discuss some of the points that Marco Silva had brought up. So I thought, you know what, I'll do it again. I'll sit down and I'll do it. And I think it's a really good idea because it gives us the chance to hear exactly what Marco Silva's talking about. And I know a lot of people don't always catch the press conferences for exactly the same reason as me, as working or not available to sit down and watch the live team themselves. So obviously with this video you'll be able to watch it at any time, and we'll go and talk about the points ahead of tomorrow's game. So obviously, the biggest point is Jean-Philippe Gbamin is now out for around 8 weeks. His injury is going to take him out for quite some time, and that's obviously very disappointing. Listen, we knew that it was going to be quite a lengthy injury after, obviously, he wasn't included in the game against Aston Villa. Marco Silva come out and said that his injury is a lot worse than first feared. We didn't quite know a time scale. However, it was rumoured that it would be around 2 to 3 months, and now it's been confirmed by the club that it will be that. Obviously, massively disappointing for the player himself. He was just getting his feet together in the Premier League. Obviously, he came on against Crystal Palace in the opening game of the season. He started against Watford. I thought he played very well, considering he's a new player to the league. He's a new player to the country in both of those games. Obviously, it's come at the worst time for the lads. It's come at the worst time for Everton as well. He was obviously the replacement for the Tisagana Gay. We desperately need his energy, and we desperately need his pace and his power in the centre of midfield. And we lacked that on Friday night against Villa, and that showed clearly in the midfield performance because we were shocking. So it's obviously it's a massive disappointment for the player himself. It's a massive disappointment for the club. Massive disappointment for Marco Silva as well. It's not something you want to see. Not something you like to read sort of when you wake up of a morning, is that your midfielder, your new midfielder, your new signing is going to be out for around another 2 months with an injury that he sustained in training. So that was the biggest piece of news from today. That was actually announced by the club before the press conference, so I dare say it was, being prepared for Marco Silva to talk about. Everton also announced that Fraser Hornby has joined Belgium top flight side KV Kortrijk. I've probably absolutely butchered that name, but anyway, he's joined them on loan for the remainder of the 2019 and 2020 season. So good luck to Fraser out there. Hornby, one of those players that I think at the end of the season you looked at the under-23s and you thought maybe he could break through, maybe he could potentially be involved in the first team next season, whether it be off the bench, whether it be in the cup competitions. However, clearly Marco Silva's got different plans for him, and he has decided to loan him out to the Belgium top flight. Obviously he'll get some experience over there, he'll play a lot more games than he would for Everton, and it'll be a more competitive league than the under-23 league was as well. So absolutely no issues with that. So going into talking about Marco Silva's press conference himself, he was speaking about the game, he was speaking about tomorrow's Carabao Cup second round fixture against Lincoln City, which was of course why he was there to do the press conference. He said, we will play with the XI, or play with the 11. That was just what I quoted on Twitter. Play with the 11, I think, is best to win the match. Now, this is really important for me, and this is a fantastic quote by Marco Silva, and it's something that, as soon as I heard, I thought, yeah, brilliant, because that for me is saying that he wants to take this competition seriously, and he knows that we have to take this competition seriously, and he's not given any clues as to who will be in that starting 11. He's not given any clues as to who that starting 11 will be, but he said that we will play with the starting 11 that he believes is best to win the game of football. And for me, that should be our strongest team, because he should believe that our strongest team can beat Lincoln City. He also said in the same press conference, which we'll go on to talk about in a second, that we shouldn't underestimate Lincoln, that we have to respect our opponents, and that we have to respect the competition as well. So for me, you know, if it's the same 11 that we seen on Friday night, if it's the same 11 that we seen against Watford, it mightn't be that, but it should be pretty much, you know, our strongest 11. Hopefully we get to see Alex Iwobi in there. Hopefully we get to see Moise Keane in there as well. But personally, listen, I think that's a spot-on goal from Marco Silva, because it's from the office saying that, you know, he's going to take this competition seriously and he's going to take this game seriously. He could have approached it very differently, and he could have said, yeah, it's an opportunity for us to bring in, you know, some of the young players. It's an opportunity for us to give some, you know, players that don't potentially get a lot of game time a chance. And for me, that wasn't what I was looking for. I was particularly looking for Marco Silva to come out and say, we're going to be playing, you know, a side that we could field in the Premier League and win a Premier League game. And he's come out and said that we'll play the best 11 to win the game of football. And for me, at the minute, the way Everton are going, that's our best 11. Anything other than that is questionable. Marco Silva also discussed Fabian Delph and his injury and how close he is to a return. He said, he was discussing Fabian Delph, he said he can give different options to me from a technical point of view. He will be a really good player for us. He also said that Fabian Delph is in condition to play tomorrow night. So obviously a fantastic bit of news there. A little bit of a positive on the back of the negative surrounding Jean-Philippe Gbamin's injury. Obviously Fabian Delph said to be in condition to play. So one midfielder gets injured and another one returns from injury. Obviously fantastic, really, really exciting. I've been wanting to see Fabian Delph play, obviously, in the Premier League for Everton now for quite some time in a competitive game. I think he's a really, really good player. I don't think he's a player that'll play week in, week out for us. I don't think he's a player that was brought in to play week in, week out, but in situations like this, when we're a little bit short in the midfield, and when, you know, the confidence will be down, the heads will be down, and we need a leader in there, we need somebody to lift the team up, I think he's absolutely a fantastic player to do that. Marco Silva obviously discussing that he gives him a different option from a technical point of view. Maybe he's hinting at changing the formation there if Fabian Delph is available, maybe to play a flat 3 in midfield and then a 3 going forward rather than a triangle. So that's really, really interesting. Like you said, could be in contention for tomorrow's game if Marco Silva makes that decision. That'll be a really, really interesting one to see. Hopefully he's fit and hopefully he is available to Marco Silva, because we could do with as many midfielders as possible at this moment. He went on then to discuss tomorrow's game. He said, talking about the team that could start against Lincoln, he said, it is a team we know very well. We have to play with maximum ambition in this competition. And that for me is another fantastic quote by Marco Silva, and it's another quote that you think that's exactly what you want to hear. We spoke on the game preview yesterday about how we need to take this competition seriously, not only because we haven't won a trophy in 20 odd years, not only because it's a fantastic opportunity for us to get to Wembley and win a trophy, but also because the top teams in the Premier League take this competition seriously. You see Manchester City last season absolutely dominate it, not go easy in the final with Watford, absolutely blew them out the park in the FA Cup, dominated the Carabao Cup as well. So I think it's really, really important that Marco Silva recognises that, you know, it's, you know, we have to play with the maximum ambition, and we have to play with the willingness to go all the way in this competition, because at the end of the day, you know, obviously we're to see what will happen in the Premier League this season, but I think if you finish the league with a trophy, whether it's the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup, I think the majority of Evertonians would be happy with that. Obviously, let's say we finish within the top 10 and we win the Carabao Cup or we win the FA Cup, I think we'd all be, you know, over the moon with that season. So obviously really, really nice to hear that Marco Silva understands that as well. He was speaking about Jean-Philippe Gbamin's injury. He says, day by day we will see how he can be. For the moment, we can talk to you about 6 to 8 weeks in this moment. These are the targets for him to be training with us. It's a tough moment for him. We are here to support him because it's not an easy moment. And that's exactly right. Listen, Silva himself coming out there saying Gbamin will be out for at least around 6 to 8 weeks, and that's at least. And he's absolutely right. It is a tough moment for the player himself, and it's a tough moment for the club, because, like I said, whereas with some of the other new players, they're getting introduced, you know, slowly, they're being brought in gradually. Jean-Philippe Gbamin was really thrown in at the deep end because he had to be thrown in, and he was doing well, in my opinion. He was only going to get better the more game time he played, obviously, the more he learned the league and the more he learned the country that he was playing in. However, obviously now he's taken a little bit of a a step back with that because of his injury, and that is, massively disappointing, not only for the player himself but for the club as well. And I dare say no more than for the player himself, because he's going to be sitting there now thinking this was my opportunity to play in the Premier League, and I was getting decent opportunities, I was in the team week in week out, and now I've had to step out because of this injury. So obviously he's got the full support of us as well, not only the club, not only Marco Silva, but he's got the full support of the fans, and we all can't wait to see him back in action. Marco Silva then discussed Lincoln City. He said we must respect our opponents and respect the competition, but we know what we need to do to win. And I think that's a quote that we were looking for when we were talking about the game yesterday in the game preview. We were saying about how Marco Silva needs to understand that this isn't going to be an easy game of football. He needs to understand that Lincoln City are a team that will come, they will try and press us, they will try and put us under pressure, they will try and win that game of football. They very nearly did, or they very nearly caused an upset at Goodison Park last season in the FA Cup. So I think it's massively important that Marco Silva understands that, and again, like you said, respecting the competition, and we know what we need to do to win, and that's spot on. We do know what we need to do to win, and for me that's putting out a full strength team. And in terms of respecting the competition, 100%, if we get through this round, we continue to play a strong team going through the next rounds, and then for me it's probably the easiest way you're going to get a chance at silverware this season is this competition. So obviously very, very good news to hear that Marco Silva feels the same. He then further spoke about Fabian Delph. He said he'll be an important player for us, he can give different options for us. Now it's a moment for us to decide if he's ready. So again, basically saying that, listen, he offers us different options. He could play in a 3. If he comes in a 3 in midfield, he's in condition to play, but it's now up to Marco Silva as to whether he decides to put him in and play him from the off, or give him any involvement in tomorrow night's game. We'll have to wait and see. Finally, Marco Silva concluded it by talking about tomorrow's game. He said we have to be ourselves and play with full ambition to go through. It's our obligation. It can be tough away from home, but we are confident. Again, saying it's our obligation. We are obliged to win this game of football. I think it's an obligation for them to give us a top performance, especially after Friday night's disappointment, and there's absolutely no reason as to why we can't go through tomorrow. It's going to be a tough game. Lincoln are a tough opponent. However, we should have more than enough on paper to beat this Lincoln City team, and we should have more than enough to breeze through into the next round of the FA Cup. Carabao Cup, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to be as easy as that, but what I'm saying is, the quality that we have on the pitch, the quality of players that we have, should be more than enough to see us through tomorrow night. So yeah, there you go. That is the conclusion of Marco Silva's pre-game press conference. Let me know if you enjoy these type of videos, and I'll be sure to make one after every press conference. Please do hit that like button if you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. It'd mean a massive amount to me, and don't forget to join us tomorrow for the instant match reaction to the Lincoln game. Hopefully it's a positive reaction, and hopefully it's seeing Everton cruising to the next round of the Carabao Cup. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like if you have enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.